Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankara Sharya Madhyamam Asmada Sharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Mukti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dashinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatosh Maham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. So, verse 43, constantly remembering that everything of this world, all the objects of knowledge and experience is a source of sorrow. One should turn away from the objects of desire, constantly remembering that everything is Brahman, the unborn. One should never see anything as having been created, having been born. We should never believe in anything that appears within time, because as we have established already, this apparent order of reality is available for appearance and experience, but it was never really originate or create or born. It's just like a projection, a mirage of Namarupas upon Brahman, which is the only reality. So he presents here two sort of sadhanas. One is remembering the defects of the objects of desires. So it takes enormous degree of maturity to come to that, to come to the clear vision, understanding that nothing, no people, no things, no place, no circumstance, no parameter, nothing is going to really fulfill me or satisfy me or pacify me, because the nature of every object of this apparent reality is impermanence, is insecurity. With impermanence comes insecurity, because you can never rely on anything you are leaning upon, because it's there, it's not there, it's changing. No? So having come to that degree of understanding, we slowly but surely, we turn away from the objects of desire. So the mind is the one who hooks up with the objects of desire. So we need to develop this certain take charge of the mind. And by understanding the defects of the objects of this world, this apparent reality, the defect, the fundamental defect is that it does not contain the happiness we are searching for. Okay, it's not there. Doesn't matter what kind of object one means, even if it is a wonderful state of samadhi, which is one of the obstacles for self-realization and liberation. One should turn the mind away from all objects of desire. So this is the number one. Okay, we are working on a more tangible and objective, dense way. It's a sadhana of remembering that this mithya order realities does not contain the happiness that I'm searching for. And then the other sort of sadhana contained in this verse is that I, Brahman, am the only source of happiness, peace, and satisfaction. When he says, remember, everything is only Brahman, and you are the only source of fulfillment, happiness, and security. Never fall for the trick of Maya, who projects Namarupas of all colors, shapes, and sense, as attractive as it can be. Never fall for the trick of the powerful Maya. No? Everything is only Brahman, everything is only you, everything is in your consciousness as consciousness, in Brahman as Brahman, because you are Brahman. Everything is within you. That is the bottom line here. So he has presented two sadhanas. One is to bring the mind away from those distracting objects that appear, yeah? By remembering what? That they are full of defect. We have seen these defects, very much so. There is no happiness without sorrow attached to it. Not to say that the gaining of an object involves tremendous stress and sorrow, because you have to compete, you have to run to gain, and you get there already, with a certain degree of discomfort due to the chasing. And then once you get there, you're going to find different levels of problems. One of them is like how I'm going to keep it, how I'm going to keep. And then deep inside, you know that you are not going to manage to keep it, because everything escapes. And then you add another third element of the fact, you start projecting other objects of desires as a backup. So if this one fades, I must have a backup. This is subconscious, yeah? So all of that is intrinsically making any object of desire which was gained, defect. Yeah, it's a mix of happiness, joy, and sorrow. And with every accomplishment, every gain of object of desire. Therefore, we need to remember how tricky this whole thing is, of searching security and happiness in the world of objects. I should never depend on these objects, although they do not contain intrinsic real happiness. They intrinsically contain relative security and utility. Utility, I told her. So we should never depend emotionally, although we depend on a roof over our heads, we depend on at least 1 meal a day. Okay, but we should never make it a problem if the roof falls down. You must work to fix your roof, but you just don't get all miserable because you lost your roof. Or if you're having a problem not providing 2 meals a day, you just take the advantage to do a little fasting diet and having 1 meal a day, like they have done for many, many decades and centuries in India. Therefore, Gaudapada says one should remember that everything in this world is mixed with equal amount of sorrow. This is very nice. The intense pain given by an object is proportional, equal to the intense pleasure. How beautiful. The more we get something that produces pleasure, the follow-up is intense sorrow, okay? Because you're gonna lose, you're gonna be super concerned about losing it, and once you're losing, total tragedy, total misery. Remember these defects of all sense objects. One should turn the mind away from sensory addiction, habits, addiction to objects. In the Gita, Arjuna complains about the wandering mind, and Lord Krishna gives the answer to that. Oh, Krishna, the mind is indeed fickle, turbulent, powerful, and firm. So, very, very contradictory statements in regards to the mind or not. Fickle, turbulent, powerful, and firm. I consider its restraint to be very difficult, like that of the wind. So Arjuna says that the mind is powerful in a negative way, and it is maybe firmly powerful in a negative way because it wanders, it's turbulent, it is all over the place. And then and he says it's very, very difficult. It's like trying to contain, restrain the wind. Yeah? And then Krishna responds, undoubtedly. The mind is fickle and difficult to be restrained, or Arjuna. However, it can be restrained through sadhana, sadhana of detachment. Detachment requires understanding that all these objects of desire are not going to deliver the peace and satisfaction we are looking for. We need a practice which involves viveka, which is remembering the defects of the objects of this world. And then as we remember the teachings, we do this discernment day by day, moment to moment, and then I begin controlling the mind, or educating the mind, or mastering the mind not to remain attached to these objects because they do not deliver. So the power to detach depends on the power of discriminating, what really is the only source of stability, security, and fulfillment, and what is not. The objects of the world are not going to deliver. We need to remember that and do that, Viveka, from that angle of understanding. Only then we develop vairagya or detachment. And then Swami gives us some nice hint. He says, no one should stop meditation because of failure to control or to master the mind. Let the meditation continue in spite of all failures, all failures. This is called abhyasa and vairagya. So sadhana of detachment, sadhana that is going to sooner or later accomplish its goal, which is to master the mind, because the mind wants to run to the objects of desire and aversion, but to the extent that you start neutralizing the attraction and repulsion towards the objects, it's much, much easier to master the mind. We always need to feed the mind with understanding that the objects are not going to deliver. Otherwise, it's impossible to really master the mind. Okay? So let the meditation continue in spite of its failure. Just remember, you can do it. The second method presented in this verse is the most subtle, which is the discrimination between Satya and Mithya. The whole world is just a superimposition of appearing Namarupas within myself, Brahman, or consciousness, or Turiya. So this is the final method, which is the binary method. I am Satya, and all these objects of the world are Mithya, just appearance. What is there in the three periods of time is only Brahman, there is only Brahman, there is only I. The entire world is an appearance within consciousness, and I am this consciousness. I need to hold on to this knowledge, understanding, and only then I will somehow master the mind. One should remember that the world is Mithya, and I, consciousness, am Satya. And then Swami presents that for the junior students, the lesson here is discriminating within. Remember the teachings that point to the fact that the joy is not in the object, happiness is not there, the objects are value neutral, they are followed with a lot of sorrow as well. So remember that teaching, because it's more easily verified. It's easier. It's not as subtle. It's not as philosophical. It's just like, look at your very life. See if any object you have accomplished or gained, object of desire, has delivered the peace, happiness, and satisfaction that you are looking for. So we can verify that. And then we further look into all these teachings of Vedanta that proves that the happiness is not contained in the world. The world is a value neutral phenomenon, apparent phenomenon. So, and then it's easier for us and hold on to the understand I am Satya. This Mithya world is not going to impact me. I am already whole, full, and complete. I don't need to consume objects as a means to complete myself. I'm already full and satisfied. Junior students should begin with this student, this sadhana, which is a little bit more dense, by observing and examining past experience and testifying to the fact that yes, nothing really has delivered what I was searching for. Repeatedly remembering it, is going to do the job. See that the world is just you, Brahman, with different namarupas superimposed or project upon. So you are the ocean. There are several waves superimposed upon the ocean. Furthermore, you are water. Even the ocean was superimposed upon you, and much more clearly understood. The waves, superimpositions on you. This will help detaching the mind. If you don't have this understanding, and then you are alone, you're left alone with what? Willpower. And willpower alone is weak. You understand? It has to be associated with knowledge, understanding. And once the mind is detached from the world of objects of desire, the mind is going to remain quiet, not wandering all over the place. The mind understood it, and the mind was educated. The mind was mastered, but the mind does that on its own, because the Jiva Atma is the mind. Okay, is this reflect consciousness? I say that based on my experience as well, my direct experience, because I was trying for decades and I was making very little progress in controlling or mastering the mind or meditating, using the mind to experience peace and silence and then bliss and other things that later on I just walked away from. But it took decades, okay? But one does not realize, but there is something which is the very mind. The mind does not want to give up. I myself, something about my ego, want to give up and want to go back to the world and find security for old age. But the mind, does not want to give up. The mind continues, because the mind is the self and it wants to be free from this ignorance, bondage. The mind goes and persists, and then the mind itself detaches from the object, and the mind itself remains available for the final Nididhyasana Vedanta offers. No? The mind will no longer wander, the mind is going to be peaceful, calm, not believing in any of these subtle or dense objects, and then the mind is a perfect instrument to inquire into its true nature as Brahman, as Turiya, as limitless free consciousness. So the Raga Dvesha or Tamaguna and Ragoguna is the cause of wandering mind. And these desires and aversions, Raga Dvesha, attraction and repulsion, this force of delusion, byproduct of delusion that disturbs the mind, making it impossible to realize its true nature. This raga version is the cause, is the very obstacle for our understanding. This must be dissolved, and then the mind is going to be quiet. So how are you going to neutralize desires and aversions, desires and fears, attraction and repulsion towards the objects? You're going to have to understand that the objects will never deliver it. Understand? And then you can bring forth your willpower that in my
What do you think, Mark?
Perhaps he's had an internet outage or something. I don't know. He's a long time coming back.
I know. And usually we could get a little something in WhatsApp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would, oh no, maybe that would explain an internet outage. Yeah. I don't know. Let's wait a minute or two and see what happens.
Got it.
How's your mind, Lynn? Has your mind come to a place of peace and calm?
You know, it has. I spent about a month with visitors and traveling, and it was really weird. And then I came home and I spent 2 weeks in a modified retreat and
Okay.
balanced everything out. And now I've decided that I'm taking 2 days a week to do that on a regular basis.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that decision. And then mornings till 11. No appointments.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good decision. How about your brain?
Yeah, no, it's good. My mind's actually pretty calm most of the time. Really, I don't tend to think at all very much. Only
Yeah.
when I choose to. You know, sometimes, of course, it runs away or it sees things, but generally speaking, it doesn't disturb me at all these days, which is really nice. Yeah.
It is. It is. Many years to get here, but this
Yeah,
is the
quite.
payoff.
Yeah.
This is the payoff. Yeah, but the vegetable garden, how did that go?
It went well. It went well because, you know, this is pretty much what I do professionally. I advise people on permaculture and vegetable gardens and that sort of thing.
Agriculture. Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Wonderful.
we've got a permaculture unit ourselves here, and we've got a small permaculture school. Um, and yeah, a friend of mine, they've just moved up to that area in northwest Spain, and they're having all sorts of problems. So I said, okay, I'll come up for the weekend and help you. And we made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
And he was very happy because he went away. When I left, he was much more confident that he could continue himself. And
that's the trick,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You and I, it's funny because we're both in the same arena, although I don't do it professionally, but my
okay,
education is in plant physiological ecology. So
okay, nice.
yeah, and permaculture close to my heart. And there is a lovely permaculture garden here near Santa Fe that
Okay,
people turned into an amazing place, despite our climate here being very dry, only getting worse, of course.
yeah,
Change
yeah.
these things. So I'm getting so many messages from other places. Sylvia,
Oh
hold
yeah.
on for a few minutes. Internet is coming back.
Okay,
Hey,
great.
aren't we smart to hold on? Okay. See you later.
No, okay, nice to have a chat, Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I consider permaculture to actually be karma yoga in action, really.
Rescheduled for tomorrow.
Did you hear Arlindo's audio on WhatsApp? He wants to know if it could come back in a little while or we could reschedule tomorrow. What would you prefer? Waiting or scheduling tomorrow?
Sorry, my microphone was off. I
Yeah.
said either is okay for me. I don't have any appointments, so tomorrow's okay. But I can also wait around a little bit. What would you prefer, Lynn?
Yeah, we've lost a lot of the hour.
Okay, perhaps tomorrow's better in that case.
I would prefer, but
Okay.
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 Oh, why don't you message him back?
Okay. Okay. I'll do that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Right. And I'll see you tomorrow in that case.
Okey doke.